Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Dane Sanders. I'll share more about me in just a minute, but first I just want to welcome you to the show. This is the people business at Common Thread Collective. And we, that is Orchid and I, have noticed that there's a lot of folks who pay a lot of attention to a lot of the geeky stuff around what we do around agency work, both here in the US and around the world. And we love that stuff. It's one of the reasons why we do what we do, but that's not all that we do. And it occurred to us that we could probably make some other contributions that would be significant for others to consume, but also for us to process through out loud in a way that would be hopefully a gift, something that as you guys are thinking about the stuff that's important for you and your world, that this could open things up. But to get things started, let's do some introductions. Orchid is our Chief Operating Officer at Common Thread Collective. And Orchid, I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit of your background, what you got here, and why the heck you want to participate in this show.
Sure. Hi, Dane. Always a pleasure to see you. So my name is Orchid as Chief Operating, always, every single time. And at CTC, so I am responsible for day-to-day operations, overseeing our various business lines, growth strategy, paid media, creative strategy, retention, as well as our operations team. Been at CTC for a little over 2 years now. And prior to that, I have a background both brand side and agency side and a recovering consultant.
My name's Dane, and I lead employee development and performance. And what that means is we help people get better. We help the organization get better as bringing people in well in terms of how we recruit and we enroll and we hire and we train and we retrain and we keep trying to set standards higher and higher. And we also pay a lot of attention to not just getting great people in, but taking existing people and inviting them to higher levels of contribution. And we care a lot about culture. That old line, culture eats strategy for breakfast, is something we think a lot about in terms of what kind of an environment are we creating where the people who really make this human services business tick, how do we set them up for success so that CTC is set up for success so that our clients are set up for success. Every level has to win. So how do we not discourage? How do we encourage? But also how do we attract really, really talented people who want to do fun and exciting work?
This episode of the E-commerce Playbook podcast is brought to you by Motion, the creative analytics platform used by top e-com and D2C brands like Vori, True Classic, The Farmer's Dog, Hexclad, and hundreds more. Motion lets you monitor your performance metrics and see your visual assets in the same platform, plus build powerful visual reports using data from your ad accounts, bringing media buyers and creative teams together. Get 50% off your first month when you mention Common Thread Collective to the Motion team.
I'm excited for today's conversation, but we're going to start today with a little bit of a confessional. We're going to talk a little bit about my failure as a CEO.
Oh, only you're confessing. Okay, well, that's
yeah,
good.
you're always in the clear.
I'm on board. I'm on board with that.
Okay. So thanks. So today's topic in the people business is really around how we at CTC don't care about dreams anymore, that we just have given up on the idea and we just we're not really into that anymore. And
you're just trying to get clicks, Dane.
Well, hopefully it's working. But the point here is to talk a little bit about some of my history relative to CTC. For those who don't know, I had a chance to lead a little organization called Tell Me Your Dreams. And this company actually grew out of CTC. It was an employee benefit, a program that started at CTC. We believe that, everyone should have a chance to pursue their dreams. And even if they're in the context of work, that should happen, and created this really interesting program. And then we were so excited about it. One of our dreams at the organization was to take it and offer it to other organizations, which we did. And we ran it at CTC for many years. And then all of a sudden, seemingly, we didn't. And walk us through, Orchid, a little of that moment in your mind. Like when you think in retrospective, because you came in to Tell Me Your Dreams culture at CTC, and then things began to shift. And I think you saw it before it even happened a little bit.
Well, I think there was, I think context is king in this, in a lot of ways. And so when I joined, yes, Tell Me Your Dreams, it was this thing where you could enroll. I couldn't remember if it was quarterly or biannually, but if you had a dream, you could enroll in the program and you would have regular mentorship and regular coaching in order to, it's almost like an accountability coach, I think, in a way.
to make sure that you were actioning towards your dreams. And I remember that before I joined, that was something I was really interested in. I was like, oh, okay, like what could my dream be? Maybe it's to pick up, piano lessons again. And it was just this really interesting thing where it could take something that you aspire to, and the dreams could be big or they could be small. I remember one person's was that they never got their driver's license. So their dream was to, get their driver's license. And it was this regular cadence where you were held accountable to, one, declaring your dream in front of the rest of the company, right? Of saying like, so I would have said, okay, I'm going to, I haven't played the piano in years and decades at this point. I'm going to commit to finding a piano teacher and, going through a concert or whatever the goal was. It was like kind of public goal setting. And then you would have check-ins. And then at the end of the program, you would graduate and you would, kind of share your talent with everyone. And I thought that was so wonderful, right? Because it really thought about us as employees, as like, multidimensional human beings, that we had aspirations and interests that were outside of work. Now, what got a little fuzzy, candidly, for me was that there were some people whose dreams were to create a competing agency. Just like,
and it's at one point, these dreams, we took it so seriously. Dreams were KPIs. Like,
oh, okay.
It was actually, so you think about that context that you just described. So somebody actually has a dream someday of running their own agency. They're working at an agency. They want to run their own someday. And we've actually made it a clear metric of success that you would actually pull that off. Or at least do a phase in that direction. And
I think too, even if it wasn't an agency, a lot of people, I think side hustles were really, I think promoted and encouraged as well. And so I think with a more like, if you're more mature, and I don't like mean this in age or experience or anything, but kind of like more mature minded, you could say, okay, well, like my side hustle is going to be my side hustle and I can continue to do that. But the thing that I am, earning my livelihood from, like, I'm going to make sure that everything is covered off there. And then any remaining time is going to go to my side hustle. And I think when we're talking about this transition that I saw was that I started to see the shifting of like the side hustle becoming the main hustle. And then the job that we're all here to do, that we signed up for, that we want to deliver for our clients and for our teammates, like that was actually getting pushed to the side. And so I think maybe that even was leveraged. Like, I'm sorry.
Would you say leveraged, or would that be going too far? Like leveraging their job.
Some people, I mean, like I assume positive intentions, right?
Sure.
And so there are some people, I think, where they're like side hustle, they're just passionate about. And I think there are a lot of us, like when you're passionate and you're excited about something, that's the thing that you want to work on all the time. And it's like, it takes someone who is very sure of themselves. And again, like I keep using the word mature. I don't know if that's the right word to say like, you know what? That's going to be like my treat is that I get to work on my side hustle if I just kind of like finish like the things that I am obligated to do. Right. And you do that in all facets of your life. Like I want to watch Real Housewives, but like I got to feed the kids first, and I love my children, but I'm like, oh, that's a treat. Like once I get everything that I have to do, like settled, then I get to have my treat. And so I think that was kind of like the first inkling where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That we're saying we're almost like elevating your personal like dreams and your personal time. We're allocating company time to that. And we're actually like, didn't say it, but we did not say it, that it was okay that you worked on these things. Like, I think there was a blurred line about whether or not you can work on these side hustles while you were at your job. Right. And so I think that lack of clarity, maybe, again, assuming positive intent across the board, like it was confusing. It caused confusion. And part of it too was that we dedicated a lot of company time against it. And, what that created was the sense that, we had, I think, 2 hours of calls per week where the entire company came together, for a variety of reasons. But, tell me your dreams and declaring your dreams and following up on those was one of them. And the problem is that when you create that time, when you take up that time, it like the time spent on work, like it's still there. It doesn't go away. And so what happened was like that the like nice to haves like started to really encroach on the things that we had committed that we were going to do as a team, as a company for our clients. And I think that's really, it came to a head where we're like, okay, we actually need to change now.
So when you think about that moment, really what you're describing is culture. Like we had a particular culture in a particular moment for a particular purpose. And as I'm hearing you describe it, over time, even if it was a good fit for a season, over time, what you started to see as really the person who's in charge of the entire operation was a misalignment, that there was something that was beginning to shift in terms of our own clarity about what we needed to be about in the season that we were in, and we needed to make an adjustment with the culture. Is that a fair way to represent it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think another thing that got called into question was like, well, who am I as a company to help people achieve their dreams that aren't work related?
Say more about that. So like, it sounds like there was something around scope here that you're describing.
Yeah. So, and I think again, when we talk about the cultural moment, like you see, we weren't the only company going through this at the time. I remember, I think it all kind of started with COVID, right? And you saw different companies come out. And I remember Basecamp at the time got a lot of heat in social media where they said, hey, we're actually just like not going to talk about politics anymore. Like, we're just not going to talk about it at work. It's not going to be water cooler talk. Like, we're not going to dedicate time to that. And I remember people on Twitter, right? So from a very small subset of people, but were outraged. They're like, because this was against the backdrop of this idea of bringing your full self to work. And they're like, hey, it's not that we don't appreciate you and that you have different political values and views. It's just that we think it's distracting from like the core work of like what we're trying to do here. So like you can do that on your own time. And I think it was extremely, extremely unpopular. I think that what it ends up being is us, and I know we were kind of joking a little bit about it in the upfront, but it's not that like your dreams don't matter to me. They matter to me as like hey, we're building rapport, relationship. I know you outside of work. I know like if you're having an off day or how even, like what's contributing to it, or if you're having an awesome day that's, not work related, I would love to share in that with you. So it's not about that. It was really prioritizing like, hey, we're here for a reason. We have clients who are depending on us for a service we provide. I need to make sure we are delivering that service excellently, that we are showing up not only for our clients excellently, but showing up for each other. And we are doing the things that we're promising that we're going to do. And that is going to be the priority.
Yeah,
and that's even hard for me to say right now because I feel like there's this like societal pressure too of being like, well, you're uncaring. And I'm like, no. I'm just being realistic about how I can care for people. And the way that I can care for people as CTC is teaching them skills that they will have far beyond their time at CTC. I want to set them up for success in whatever they want to do in their career. But I need to be honest about what I can do and what I can't do for people.
So there's kind of a highest and best contribution is what I'm hearing. Like we're uniquely positioned to do the things that you're just describing, but probably not quite as qualified to do some of the other things that might be in scope, especially if you think of the stakeholders. So talk a little bit about the impact on clients when we get distracted.
Yeah, I have so many examples. I think one thing about culture is, and this was a question that came up quite a bit from our employees, which was, okay, in terms of like our cultural standards, we all agree internally that that's what it is, but does that extend to our clients? And like, should we have the same expectation that our clients are going to share our culture? And I think that's a fair question, right? Because for me, I was like, well, are you talking about professionalism and professional courtesy? Or are you talking about sharing the same worldview? Because I can't keep a straight face and say that I am open to, diversity of thought, of backgrounds and things like that. If I'm saying like, oh, okay, yeah, but only if you agree with me. Like that doesn't seem right either. And I think that it happened a lot because we were perceived as like being extremely like politically progressive, right? I think we're very socially progressive, but I think we were seen as like very politically progressive. And we had a lot of folks who were aligned with that. And so when we had a client who was maybe more conservative leaning or showed up on, conservative news or, had products that were more geared to a conservative audience, then it's like, okay, well, you don't share my same beliefs. Do I still service you? And I think that if we're serious about diversity, if we're serious about providing our service, then the answer is yes, because clients are clients. They're trying to make their way through the world, right? We're all doing like, they're not selling anything illegal. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, like just because their worldview is different from yours doesn't make it wrong. And I think that we were kind of like going down that slippery slope where, it's like, oh, you believe something different. Well, you're wrong and I'm right. And I think that that's all of society. I think we've all seen this, bifurcation and this extremism happen across the board. And I'm just saying like, hey, as a business, like I want everybody to be treated with professional courtesy. I want people to be treated with respect. And, but outside of whichever way you lean, like, just because it's different doesn't make it.
Right. So along that line, I mean, this podcast is about the people business and really the human services business. And there's a funny little word in there called service that really that's what you're pointing to. You're describing serving a particular demographic in a certain kind of way. And I say particular demographic, what I really mean is like serving our customers very plainly, serving our customers with our highest and best. And what I'm hearing you say is within scope, that doesn't mean that we then have to layer on top these other elements that you're describing.
I don't know that we're suited to layer on those additional out. It's about setting us and our people up for success. So if I tell people that, blanket statement, I can make your dreams come true. But like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, like I can help you with career advice and like how to work your way through the world based on my experience in like corporate and agency world. But if someone came and said like, hey, help me like achieve my dream in scuba diving, I'm like, well, I'm kind of claustrophobic and I really fear the water and the ocean. Like, I don't think anybody should be in it. So like, I don't think I'm well suited to do that. And then now we're both going to be disappointed.
If you haven't yet used Motion, here's why you should try it out. Everyone knows that the right creative is the number one lever for success with paid ads. That's how you make money. But consistently shipping new winning creative, you're going to need your media buyers and creative teams on the same page. Right now, you're probably spending hours going back and forth between Google Sheets and your ad platforms and tools, and then spending even more time plugging it all into different decks for the rest of your team. Or maybe you've built your own automated solution, but it still can't deliver the tactical creative insights you need to scale. In a perfect world, you'd have an elegant way to combine visual assets and performance data so media buyers can save time and creative teams can get the details they need to make great ads all in one place. That's where Motion comes in. In seconds, you can build powerful visual reports using data from your ad accounts. You can monitor your performance metrics and see your visual assets in the same platform. No need to go back and forth across multiple apps. You'll finally have media buyers and creative teams working together to create and scale your next big winner. If you're ready to learn how the best D2C and e-commerce brands use Motion to ship winning Meta, TikTok, and YouTube ads, book a demo today or start a free trial at motionapp.com. Even better, Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. So get 50% off your first month when you mention Common Thread Collective to the Motion team. Learn more at motionapp.com. That's motionapp.com.
It's interesting to reflect back on that season. At the time, I didn't work at CTC as an employee. I worked as a consultant and then came in and then we started running TMYD, or Tell Me Your Dreams. And I remember the way we would frame the conversation is I want to kind of nod back to what you said earlier. We would talk about, look, if you really want to motivate people, what you want to do is tune into holistic motivation. Like what they may not have had dreams to do a certain kind of thing. They might have had a more broad dream and this might be instrumental to that end. We really want to get access to that whole piece. But some of what I'm hearing you describe is almost like a recognition that yes, you have these are whole people who have whole things, but it's not really required to concern ourselves with these broad dimensions. In fact, there actually could be something very specific at the work they're doing, the thing they got the job to go do, that could also be part of their dream. Otherwise, why are they here? Isn't there something about this particular work that we could get after? And then as we progressed and really the culture became really clear what kind of a culture was needed for what we wanted to achieve as an organization for our clients. What occurred to me was we reframed our work as saying, look, we're not going to be for everybody. Like this particular work, we're looking for people who are dreaming that this kind of work would actually be part of their dream as well. And I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit about elevating the work that we're doing for our clients and putting that more central to the aspirations of the employees who are coming to work with us.
Yes, absolutely. And I think part of it too is acknowledging like my own limitations as a human and as a leader, because there are infinite problems. And, I went through a season where I had a lot of personal things going on. And I know that everybody is dealing with their own version of that.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very clear about what I can give and what I can't give. And what I can give is that if you're experiencing something in your personal life that is, impacting your work, let's have a conversation about it. I can, if your workload needs to decrease for a season, or if you need extra help for a season, like I can do that through action. But like me being a listening ear, like I can't take that on in a way that will, like I'm not a therapist, right? Like I'm not going to give you like the advice that a therapist will. If you just want someone to listen for a little bit and to absorb that, I can do that. But if you apply that against like 40 people, 50 people, 100 people, like I have other people in my life that I need to give a lot to emotionally. And so I think it's also like being really honest about like what I have and can give and what I can't give in that moment. And I think that feels scary for a lot of leaders and for myself as well. But like, I don't have infinity versions of myself to give in order to show up as my best self, because I am accountable for making sure that all these people are employed. I am accountable for making sure that this business runs in a way that we can expand, that we can, continue to promote people. We can continue to give people raises. And like, that's really where my focus and energy should be relative to, someone having like being a therapist. Like that's not a good use of my time, nor is it a good use of their time. And I think he's being honest about that. And so that like is a very natural transition to your point about, I think companies, like we have to be really honest about who we are and like our role in the world, or in like e-commerce, for instance, if we want to get more specific about us. And so we said, okay, well, we are an agency. We are a service business. People pay us for us to help them with their financial forecasting, their media allocation, to run their media accounts, also to help them with performance creative, right? Email, whatever our services are. That's why people come to us. They don't come to us. They don't pay us because they want to hang out, because we're nice people and we like tell some funny jokes sometimes. That is not what this relationship is. And so we had to be really honest about that. We said, okay, well, in order to command, industry respect, a higher price point, like the work has to be excellent. Self-respect, to command self-respect, the work has to be excellent. So how do we reorganize our culture around delivering excellent work and feeling good about delivering excellent work and expecting excellent work, not only from ourselves, but also from each other? How do we center around that? Because that is the most important thing, and everything else is gravy. And so I think that's when you came in.
Well, it's fun. It was really interesting when I think about that moment. Was I didn't know that I was going to get a job at CTC. I was running another organization. And when Taylor pulled me aside and said, actually, what you're doing over in that obscure thing over in the corner, that little buffalo over there, I don't know if you can kind of see it. I have this little buffalo that's connected to this or little organization I run called Men and Women of Discomfort. And Men and Women of Discomfort, what we do is we choose to do the hard thing in order to, it's really a play off of this great quote from Jerzy Gregorek: hard choices, easy life; easy choices, hard life. And at this cultural moment at CTC, we had to make some hard choices so that we could have a better existence, so we could provide better for our clients. But it was a hard moment. And I remember being invited into it, and Taylor was basically like, yeah, what you're doing over there, enrolling people to choose the harder thing for the better, we want to do that with our people. And we want to do this in a systemic way, in a thoughtful way, but an honest way, where we're getting really true and real and aligned with who we are and what we want to achieve for our customers. And it began with values, and it's worked its way through. It's taken time. Some people who came in under the old culture for good reason, we totally respect and appreciate them. They decided to move on, and we say, yeah, we get it. That's not what you signed up for. But this new thing, and that's what I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about, is we got more clear-eyed about what that new thing was, this notion of excellence. And how do you create a context where people opt in for the pressure and tension and compression that's required to become really good at a thing, and really to do it voluntarily, where it wasn't just like, hey, now we're just going to drop the hammer and be super mean, and this is the way, super high standards. It was really an effort to enroll people in, do you want this or not? Do you actually want to be involved with a group of people who are pursuing excellence together in very specific domains of responsibility, but to do it in concert, where we're constantly reevaluating, constantly considering, well, what would a higher standard look like? And how could I choose to opt in for that over and over and over again? So again, I want to get to the current reality of how we're navigating that in a second, but talk a little bit about that transition, Orchid, and how, we had really good people who were like, this doesn't feel me-centric anymore. This feels like there's something else that's at the center. Because Tell Me Your Dreams is really about the employee. They're the center of the story. And we shifted to, well, actually, that's not true anymore. The customer is the center of our story. But talk a little bit about that transition and how you experienced it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Was that we, instead of elevating both the employee experience and the client experience, we elevated the employee experience over the client experience. And so when you say me-centric, like that's exactly what it was, which was that, oh, well, like I'm going to focus on my own experience as an employee, and the clients are secondary. So when we talk about being really honest about what we are, which is like, we're a service business, right? And I think we tried to have it both ways for a while, where we would say, oh, well, you get like the 2 weeks at the end of the year off. Company is closed. And I was like, we're in e-commerce. Like that's the same as retail. Like we're never really closed. You can't take like how many clients do we have that have like a new year, new you, or like January is their big moment? Like that is impossible to have that time off. And so even when we implemented that, we're like, oh, well, it's like, yes, it's off in your contract, but then it was like soft working hours. And then again, this lack of clarity, because you're trying to be everything to everyone and you're trying to avoid being the bad guy. You're trying to make everybody happy. And like the end result is that no one's happy. And so we said, hey, we're in e-commerce, just as we work on through Thanksgiving, right? Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we are going to work through the end of the year. Like there is no company off time. There's soft working hours we can adjust, certainly, to make sure that people have time with their loved ones. But like, again, when we say like this isn't for everyone, not everyone gets into retail, right? Because you might have to fold some sweaters on Thanksgiving Day. It just is what it is. And I think that the first step for us was to be honest about, okay, when we say excellent work and delivering excellent work, what does it take? What does it take in way of commitment? What does it look like for our time? What does it look like for like the relationships that we have, and we like think about how work relates to those relationships. And we had to start saying it internally. We were very transparent about it. We said, hey, we're going to make this change. This, like what we used to be, it doesn't serve us anymore, because under what we used to be, like it actually, like we weren't delivering excellent work, right? We would hear it from our clients. We would hear it from our team members where, someone wasn't accountable or didn't show up or, like all that stuff happened. And, it honestly feels a little scary for me to be like so transparent and open, but in speaking to other agency owners, it's the same refrain, like finding good people is really, really hard. Not everybody wants to do the thing that are asking them to do. And that's okay. I think that second part of being okay with the fact that we are for specific people, that we're not for everyone, we had to be okay with. And so we communicated it internally and we said it in multiple forums at different levels, small groups, big groups, company-wide, one-on-ones, and said, this is the thing we're going to become. Is that what you want? If you don't want it, no harm, no foul. Like, let's talk through a transition plan. If I have connections in what you want to do, I am more than happy to make those connections. I am more than happy to write a letter of recommendation, anything you need to be able to set up for the next thing, because you didn't do anything wrong. But the premise under which you signed up under has changed. So this is what we are now. Like, you can't like reminisce about the past in a way and say like, oh, I wish we could go back to that, because it doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of like people who are like, oh, the 50s were so great. I was like, well, the 50s weren't great for everybody. Let's be clear. And also like, we're not going back. So, I mean, I think that was part of it. I think like tactically, there's one thing where we did previously, and it was because of the hiring environment too, is that we would, and like agencies are kind of set up this way, where you would hire junior people and you'd say, okay, I'm going to train you on all of the things that we know, and then you're going to get to this level, right? Consulting companies do it all the time. It's just that the training required is an MBA, right? And then they'll like sell you on like their system and their deck. And they're like, okay, you're going to have a junior baby woodchuck, but we're going to spend all this time and resources in training them up. And we looked around and we said, actually, like, we don't have that. We used to have a really robust education department, and we don't have that anymore. And so it doesn't make sense for me to hire someone with no experience and like say that like I'll train them up, because I don't have the resources to do that. What I do have is that if you have experience in media buying, in, creative concepting, creative strategy, in growth strategy, I can give you the tools and the coaching required to get you from good to great. I can do that. And so we also had to say like, hey, we can't do junior hires anymore. We're not going to hire people with no experience because we can't set them up for success.
Yeah. The shift was so significant. And what I'm struck by now that things have really kind of grounded, we know who we are right now. To survey the people who are here, I would argue this is sounds kind of a funny way to put it, but the most satisfied group of employees we've had at
You were going to say
CTC.
Happiest.
I almost did. I almost said the happy word. Yeah. Scary. But satisfied is significant to me. Like there's a sense in which we were honest with what we weren't. It had to eat some humble pie in the process, get really clear about things, declare things, work through process with real humans who we cared about. In some cases, part ways. In other cases, bring on new people. And net, what I'm struck by is we actually are getting more of what we were going for with the initial effort, with the initial cultural kind of concern. And I think it's because when people come in here, they know what they're signing up for now in a very clear way. And when they are here, they are surrounded by others who are likewise going after those similar things. There's high degrees of agency. There's high degrees of like, people come to work every day. They get better at their job every day, and they like how that feels. They're the kinds of people who want that. And they feel like they belong to something that's very focused and very clear and on task. And I'm wondering for you.
Joke about The Bachelor, but like, it's like, are you here for the right reasons?
Interesting.
Right? And like, that's a refrain in The Bachelor, but it's like, okay, well, are you here because you're interested in coming with us in this season of your career in order to learn? And learning and growing means being uncomfortable. So are you game with that? Because if you're game with that, then we're game with giving you the tools and the access and the experience in order to get to that next level.
And the benefit of that discomfort, just to add to that, is just you actually are going to get better. You're actually going to enjoy the fruit that comes from people who choose those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a choice. So there was this really funny thing I saw. So I get a bunch of emails from like different organizations. And there was this one forum where this one person asked the question, hey, I'm looking at a job description And in the job description, it says that you have to work nights and weekends. Is this a red flag? And some people are like, oh yeah, that's a red flag. I was like, that's not a red flag. That's a green flag. I was like, because they're honest about what it takes to work in that environment. And so if it's not for you, then don't apply. But I would rather find out before I've even spent my time putting my resume together than to get through the whole process, accept the job offer, and then come to find out that you have to work nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we'll turn a corner here for folks who are at home listening, and really, I want to frame this final section of the conversation around what's in it for them. How can they benefit from this conversation in their context with their place of whatever they're doing? When you think about people who are hearing this part of our story, and you could wave a magic wand for them to get something out of this, what are some of the keys? Like, what are some of the ideas that you go, look, how can you apply a little of what we learned in their context so that they could make progress with their people business?
I think and we've talked about this quite a bit, it's becoming clear and honest with yourself about what you're trying to do in the world, right? Because if you are clear and honest with yourself about who you are, what it takes to be who you are, then you can look around at your current team and say, all right, if I were to present this to each team member, what would their feedback be? In terms of, do they agree that this is who we are and this is who we want to be? And then I would also be really curious as to ask them how far off they think we are from being the thing that we want to be. And then that gives you an idea, right? I think like a listening tour is really helpful, because if someone looks at what you think in your mind of like who you want to be and like what you want to do, and they're so far off from that, then like, all right, well, every time you point a finger at someone else, you got 3 of them pointing back at you. So maybe some time for self-reflection. And I will also acknowledge that it's really scary in like a even though like the hiring environment right now is like supposedly like the employer has power, like you obviously also, like if you're a smaller company or you just like don't have that much brand equity, like you obviously want to convince people to join you. And so it feels like the way to entice people is to like, say yes to everything that they're asking for. But I think that will feel good short term, and you're going to get into a mid to long term problem anyway. So I think like leaning into your circles of saying like, hey, this is who we are. Like, this is the type of person I'm looking for. Like, do you all know someone? Because I think clarity for you is going to be clarity for everyone else as well. And I think you'll get better candidates and you'll actually get better team members.
That sounds courageous. Like it's requiring a lot of bravery. Yeah.
It's scary. It's scary because people don't want to be rejected. Right? Like, I think, you and I conduct the last round interview for every single candidate that comes through these doors. And even then, like, it was hard to say we're not for everyone at the beginning. And I think over time and through repetition and like the building of that confidence and also like seeing that what we're doing is working has made it easier. And I think we provide all those candidates with the context too, saying like, hey, we're not for everybody, and that is okay. But we think that you deserve this transparency in the upfront, because just as we're choosing you, you have to choose us too.
So colleagues listening in, appreciate you and your care to even concern yourself with these kinds of things. We do invite conversation about this stuff. And if you are interested in chatting more, please reach out our way. The main message here is, find a way, bite your lip, hold your breath, be brave in the direction that your conscience is calling, especially as it relates to these higher order things, if you want to go this kind of effort. And as imperfectly as we do it, and yet persistently we are heading in that direction, this is what we're up for. And we love surrounding ourselves with other colleagues who want to choose the hard thing in order to get the better. And we'd love to hear from you in your process and in your context. Thank you, Orchid. Always a treat.
Same. I'll see you on the other side.